Hey, it's Greg Fearon from the Project Fit podcast, episode I think 27 now. So we're rocking and rolling. We're quarter of a way through to the 100, and the goal is to get 100 episodes by the end of the year. Wish me luck. So I wanted to talk today very quickly about whether intermittent fasting is a magical tool for health, fat loss, and everything else. Now, first of all, I just want to point out one thing that you need to be aware of, that every diet has been round in a circle, okay? So if we go back in time, everyone was like low fat. Yeah, in the 70s, it was all low fat. It was all, don't eat fat. Now we're saying eat fat. It was low carb. Now it's like, it's not just carb, it's refined sugar. So all these diets kind of go around in circles, and ultimately they're just a strategy for getting the result you want, right? Bodybuilders will use, feeding 6 times a day to get more calories in and get more protein just because it works for them, right? So like any strategy, any diet plan, it's all just a strategy to get you to the same result, to a particular result. That's all it is. How you get there is the way that needs to fit your lifestyle, fit your physiology, fit your culture, because I think culture is a misunderstood part of food. So for instance, my heritage is West Indian. We're going to like our carbs, yams, bananas, dumplings, all that kind of stuff. So to then say to someone who's from the Caribbean, you can't have carbs, it's just stupid. Like, they just won't be able to go to dinner with mum ever because they won't be able to have rice and peas, and that's just not fun. So you really need to consider that, all those kind of things. Now, all foods have a nutrient value. They also provide not just calories, but also other functions to the body. So having said that, recently, it's like keto was kind of 2019, 2018. We're now in the era of intermittent fasting, and it's now like hybrid, like intermittent fasting plus keto. And I think the problem is that we always rely on one strategy too much. Like, that's it, that's us for life. So there is some science that shows that during fasting, for example, whether that be 16-8 or intermittent daily fasting, whatever fasting method you use, that you have something called cell autophagy. Okay, now cell autophagy is essentially cell death. It's where cells that are a little bit broken, a little bit messed up, get destroyed, get consumed by the body to be got rid of. And obviously that is part of the mechanism of cancer. Now, what's happened is that obviously one bit of research has come out and said, well, this is what happens. So therefore it's important that you do this all the time, etc. But actually, when you look at the data, it's still in its infancy. It's not been proved to be definitive. There's still no science that says that people who do intermittent fasting live longer and have less diseases. There's not a real complete study yet. So the problem we have to be careful with all of these things is what we see. We get a glimpse, we get a little bit of insight, but we don't ever read the full studies. So intermittent fasting is awesome. Like, I do it sometimes, other times I don't do it. It just depends on how I feel. I tend to diet, how I just feel. I should eat my food when I feel hungry. But intermittent fasting works really well, especially for people who got busy jobs, busy professionals, because you ain't got time for breakfast, because you've got to get up, maybe get the kids ready, maybe get your partner ready because he needs to be dressed as well. And you don't have time for making a big breakfast. So therefore you'll wait. But the challenge with intermittent fasting is that often people get hungry about 11 o'clock. And before you know it, they're going for the croissants and the flapjacks around the office. So it can work really well if you have that kind of affinity towards it. But like anything, it's to test people. Like there's not one specific diet protocol that's going to really, definitively fix all your issues. It just doesn't work like that. And sometimes you need a bit of flexibility. So intermittent fasting is awesome if it works for you. Keto is awesome if it works for you. If it doesn't, stop doing it. Like, don't try and force yourself into a bottleneck of, I must do this diet plan because my friend said it works. No. Yes, you might need some experimentation. Me as a coach, I would look at certain lifestyle factors to determine what I think is going to be an appropriate strategy, because that's all these diets are. They're just strategies to get you to where you want to be. And it might be that at some point we do this, because I know I've got a client who's going to be up at, crack of dawn every morning for work. I might say, well, maybe intermittent fast, maybe. But then if I've got someone who wants to gain weight, then I'm going to be like, look, you need to have your breakfast. You need to eat some food. So there's no one size fits all. And I think that's the big issue with most people following diets nowadays, is that we're locked into this one box and we can't move. And we almost identify ourselves as being, a diet. We don't identify as a person anymore. We're like, oh, I'm keto. Oh, I'm paleo. Well, no, you're not. You're a human being. And your body, as you know, fluctuates, and hunger and appetite cravings all fluctuate and move. So try not to lock yourself into one way of eating unless it's going to be sustainable for you. The other thing I think we need to just really consider is that there has been some study that shows that maybe intermittent fasting does have an impact on insulin resistance. Now, this was a study, I believe, done on diabetic people who are already obese, and that fasting, so they got them to fast, but it increased their insulin resistance. So obviously we have to look at that. And if you're someone who's struggling with insulin resistance, then maybe fasting isn't what you need, and maybe you need to take advantage of insulin when it's present. Eat, let it do its job, because insulin is not a bad thing that people need to really understand. Insulin is a really important, like without it, you die. That's why type 1 diabetics have to take insulin, like you will die. So we need to stop bad mouthing insulin for fat gain. But we have to be very careful that we don't just hang our hat on one strategy. So yeah, that's interesting research just that I've recently been looking at. Like with everything, I need to dive into it a bit more. But yeah, so intermittent fasting is an awesome tool to kind of change your eating window and make it, so that if you use 16/8, for example, you're only going to use 16 hours of non-eating fasting, 8-hour window of eating. So you control your calories that way. There's alternate day fasting. So some people, got the 7 days of the week, and they might fast on a Tuesday and a Thursday, maybe even a Saturday. So that can work quite well. There's 5-2, with 5 days of the week you eat normally, and then 2 days of the week the fast. But ultimately, they're all a mechanism for most people, not for optimal health. They're actually doing it to lose weight, and that's what you need to be aware of. So they're all, again, it's all strategies. Whether you count your calories or not, I mean, you still, even if you fast, you still need to watch calories, right? You can't fast and then not track your calories, because on those days that you are eating, or the times you are eating, you could be eating over your calories, and you're still going to get weight gain or stay at maintenance. So you need to be aware of your caloric intake, or else nothing's going to happen. So with you fast and you feel all woohoo, it's not then going to get the result you want, and that's why people get frustrated. So a couple of last points then, just to really, and I might get a guest on and maybe debate this more, and if it is, then obviously I'd love to hear from you. Drop me a review on Apple if you have Apple, or leave me a message if you listen to this on Anchor, or just find me on all my socials. But intermittent fasting is a great tool to suit a particular lifestyle and a habit. Awesome way to manage calorie windows. There is some interesting research about it helping, things like autophagy and healing, but it's not definitive yet. There is some evidence that it might actually increase insulin resistance, so we need to be very wary of that. again, still not quite definitive yet. Number 4, I guess, is just make sure your diet strategy can be changed and you don't have a fixed mindset when it comes to your diet strategy. All right, cool. Well, that's me off. If you've got any questions, comment, hit me up. Happy to discuss anything you want me to talk about again in the future. That's it from me. Bye.